Hello, my name's Anthony, and this is going to be an online demonstration, a tutorial, a video, unofficial user guide to the Quadelectra 3-plex. We're going to go through every feature that I know exists on this thing and how it may or may not be used productively, and then ultimately come up with a review and a determination on whether or not it's worth the $45 price tag that they've slapped on this joker. This thing is feature rich. It's complicated when you just look at it, but fortunately it is no Thor, if you know what I'm saying, and it is relatively easy to understand once you get the gist of what's going on. So, first of all, what is it? It's a delay unit, a filter with automatable pan and LFO units and all this different stuff. And basically all of that times 3. Fantastic. The problem with that is there are 3 delays going on with 3 different filters going on, and it can become overwhelming. Not to mention when you actually have something going on, and this is where we're going to start getting into the features, so stick with me. There are 3 delays, as you see across the top here. This little knob here, let's go through the global parameters first. This duck knob. Immensely handy. While you've got a input of some sort coming through, let's just say maybe a drum kit or something. Well, you know what? I'll just open one up here. Make this easier on myself. Let's hope. Let's mute all this that we don't need. Alrighty. Okay, so first of all, this duck, if you have 3 delay units going on, doing who knows what, it can be insane relatively quickly. Point made. And that is without any actual original input signal coming through. This mix knob is your dry wet knob. Bringing it down to 50% means you've got the original signal going full bore and the process signal also going full bore. The duck knob. What the duck knob does is it brings the processed signal down while the original input deal is coming through so that you can hear the input signal, and the delayed signal will fill in the gaps where there is no signal coming from the input. So, that is the most important feature of this thing. Well, maybe not, but you can see how it is necessary. Let me shut this thing up. Okay, there we go. Fantastic. What else do we have here? Well, I've got a lot of different instruments going on, several different deals. Well, I guess we don't even need to look at that. Here you have an input knob. This input will increase the gain of your input source. This feedback knob, very handy deal here. All these are global parameters, I've said that already, but this global feedback deal will act as a boost, if you will, for all the feedbacks involved in the delay units. Fantastic. So, tweaking this thing up means tweaking that up makes more of a difference than it did with it at 100%. Got that? Cool. All right. Yeah, the LFO, basically these are trim knobs for the same deal. The level of impact that each of these deliver to their, destinations. Fantastic. All right, so that's the global features. We got that out of the way. Fantastic. Now, what do the delays do themselves? Well, you've got the delay time. This is done in steps based off of either a 16th note or an 8th triplet. You can also set it to millisecond. And so this sets up a little delay loop. With me so far? Fantastic. I knew you could do it. Okay, then that directly goes into the filter. And there are 5 different filter types: the low pass, the band pass, the high pass, a band reject, and a peak filter. Of course, a peak filter is not really a filter. It's going to send your signal straight through the way it was, and it's going to give you a bump wherever your frequency knob is set. Which brings us conveniently to the first thing that I don't like about this device is that the frequency knob doesn't have the hertz into the tooltip. That would be handy, especially given this little joker here. Would be nice to be able to see, okay, yeah, we've obviously got a something special going on right there at about 200 and some. You know, maybe that's what we want to accent, or whatever this is here in the 400, 500 range. Yeah, the snare. So, yeah, you can't do that because you're just guessing what 16 actually means. Enough of that. What else do we need to discuss here? The enable switch. This little device, that also brings us up to something we already skipped. Global parameter over here. Parallel, combo, serial. That's the way these things interact with one another. When they're in parallel mode, each one gets the input signal and can do with it whatever you set this thing to do by itself, and then they'll merge together and go out the one audio output. Now, if you flip it to combo, the first delay unit will get whatever you feed this device. Then, after it processes what it's going to do, it will split its output and send it to 2 and 3, where they can do their dirty little deeds to your signal. And then lastly, serial. That works like you would expect. 1 goes into 2, goes into 3. Now, the reason why we have to go through all of that is this enable switch. When set in combo or serial mode, you need to understand that this is not a bypass switch. It is a on-off switch, much like the effect on-off switch up here. It's not bypass, it's on or off. On, off. Okay? So, when you have it in serial mode, and you've got number 3 off, you will have no signal when you are, 100% wet. Very important to recognize the thing's not doing anything because this guy is off. You turn him back on, and saying you actually had this thing set to where it would send stuff through. There we go. Now they're working serial from one another. How about that? Now, likewise, in combo, if you turn the 2 off, that means you're getting 1 going through number 3, and number 2 is just blocking any extra that you would be bringing from, see, there you go. If I turn number 1 off and got both of these off, with combo mode, you'll have nothing. All right, so that's important to know. What else do we need to know? You know how to work a delay unit. I'm not going to explain that. The pre-filter. Let's go back to parallel. This is supposed to do something. Oh, that's right. It takes the filter and slaps it in front of the delay in the order of operations, if you will. I don't know what to do with that. It basically means that you're going to be filtering this thing before it hits the delay, which means you're delaying the filter rather than filtering the delay. I guess it would matter when you've got things being modulated. Say you've got your LFO going and affecting. Let's see if I can get it to do something. It probably will not work because I'm doing this on the fly, right? All right, what's that sound like? All right, so what I'm doing now is the filter is in front of the delay. And if I flip this off, let's turn the resonance up, see what that does. Yeah, I'd say there's a little bit of a sonic difference there. Seems like it's getting a little bit more high-pitched stuff going there. But, yeah, knowing what that does is, I guess it's important, but knowing what it's going to result in, I couldn't tell you how to figure that out. Okay, so after that, we've discussed the different types here briefly. A band reject is basically a notch filter. We talked about the peak. The peak is not really a filter, it's more of a bump. And let's see, what is next? You got the 4-pole versus the 2-pole. It's an awful lot of poles. Yeah, so basically this is going to be more of like a steeper slope, whereas this is a more gentle roll-off. Yeah, kind of like in your Thor, like when you bring up your Thor and you have the 24 versus the 12. Yeah, dB roll-off per octave, right? That makes all the sense in the world. Yes, so that's the difference between the 4-pole and the 2-pole, is the rate at which it rolls off your filter. Yeah, all right, so with this, you also have 3 LFO units. These LFOs can be used in conjunction with however you want to, because they have outputs right here. So they can be moved on just about anything you want to around here. You heard it already on the frequency. You can put it on the pan or the level, which is kind of a handy little deal, especially when you get 3 or 4 of these things going at the same time. I don't know how you'd get 4, but maybe you duplicate it. Oh, words. I give up. There's a lot to cover, and I'm trying to talk fast, and it's not working because I don't talk fast, and it's not in my nature to talk fast. The envelope, let's get on with it. The envelope is tied to the delay time. As I mentioned earlier, this is a loop. So if you set it to 7/16, that means every 7/16 it's going to be triggering this envelope. It's important to know. It's not an envelope follower in that sense. It is tied directly to that delay. And that's a big part of the functionality of this thing. If you're going to make sense of it, you really need to be using this envelope. That's my opinion, at very least. I did dial up my patch that does the CV to audio deal with Thor. And I figured we could draw out a couple of these envelopes just to show you what they look like. All right, so this one's on 7/16. Let's put this one on something more natural, like a 2/16. That would be 1/8, where most people live. And yeah, give a little bit of attack on both. And let's just decrease the hold so we have a pretty little waveform to watch. Oh, look, leftovers from the last time I tried to record this video, and go. Whoops, nope, that one. All right, so those are our 2 envelopes. Just like that. All right, so now you can visualize what this would be doing to your frequency knob, should you give it some. Well, I guess we do need to turn this guy on also in order to make this work. Both set to high pass. This one's a little lower. We'll hit it, but that one's going to be much more active too. So let's just see what happens with our little drum kit. It's nutso. That's the best thing about this effect unit, in my opinion. It's insane. All right, so there you go. That's the not amp envelope, but the envelope, tied to the delay deal. Now, the other thing is it does have its own output, so if you wanted to route it to something like the pan, you could. I don't know how recognizable that's going to be, but I guess it's doing what it's saying it's doing. Let's hope. Okay, what else do we need to discuss? Yeah, each one has a pan and level, so you could do something like this with the level. You could turn on this LFO and set it to 1 bar, then have it impact the level knob. And as you can see, it's doing this little sawtoothy kind of deal. So it means at the beginning of the bar, it will be loud, and then by the end of the bar, it will be down. So, proof of concept, I hope. See? Loud and quiet. All right. So yes, it behaved as we would hope. The LFO can be used to modulate just about anything. And that is good because there are two methods to using this thing. There is the blindly tweaking in the dark method. I'm horrible with this device, to be honest, and that's basically what happens every time I get to playing with it. I have a lot of fun, but I don't always make something that's intelligent or has a whole lot of point. I'll end up tweaking knobs, and I'll have things going 8 different ways of Sunday, but none of them making any real sense. Is this worth something? I don't know. Yeah, okay, so we're jamming. We got something totally ridiculous and probably worthless. And that's basically the way you could handle that, is you could turn on the duck knob and use it to bring in your original signal. And you can glitch out. It's fun, but it makes no real sense. And you know, that's a thing with me. I've got all these creative effects, studio effects, and most of them have a job to do. They change the sound in a very certain kind of way. This thing, it does a lot. It's feature rich, as I mentioned before. And the problem with that is I never know what I'm going to get. I just keep tweaking knobs until I get something that sounds like something. I don't know. And I can't even say that anything sounds like something. The other thing I've got here is a piano bit. It's 2 notes. And what I thought I would do... Let's see, is it playing? It does not appear to be playing. That's because you unplugged it, you dingbat. There we go. Alright, so yeah, 2 notes. A C and a F. And a and a D. Very vibrant, this sound of ours here. So, from the scratch, let's turn this thing on. We'll turn this joker off. I'm going to increase the input so that we get a little more sound out of this joker. Yeah. Maybe there. Okay, now I can hear it. That's fantastic. Turning on the first delay unit. This is currently set to 3/16. And it's set to high pass, and it's not actually sending much signal through at all. Alright, so that's something. Maybe we need to space this thing out, make it craziness, and let's do that by setting this to triangle. Then every 2 bars, I want it to pan from left to right and back and forth. Alright, let's go ahead and bring in another. This one is also set to 3/16. I'm going to change that to 2/16, 1/8. I'm going to decrease the feedback so it doesn't hit so many times. And let's go bandpass on this one. Bring the resonance up. Alright, that sounds like something. whether or not it sounds any good or not. Hey, let's use our envelope. Pulling it up, the attack, the decay, dropping the hold down to make it sound like something, and then turn up the envelope knob to make it affect it. Alright, so now I have two delays going. One's panning left and right. This other one's dead center, but it's rhythmically set to 1/8 note following our two notes there. Alright, so that's fantastic. What do we do with this one? That's a wonderful question. Alright, let's try 4. And we'll do more of the same. Bring a peak, maybe? That's pretty loud. Let's get rid of some of the volume now. And maybe that's the thing to do. Let's use one of these others. We'll put it on a sine wave. And we'll sync this to 1/8 notes. And let's just have it hit different stuff. And let's just listen to this one while we're doing this. Alright, make it hit it hard. It's on its waveform, it's synced to an 1/8 note. Here, let's turn off the dry signal. It's funny, I really can't hear it. Turn up the resonance. I guess because I'm not sustaining the notes long enough. There you can kind of hear it. Have it affect the volume a little bit. Then you can, of course, mix and match. Yeah, let's keep the attack straight up and bring in a little decay. Drop the hold nearly to non-existent and see how the envelope will fix that. Yeah, I think they're working against each other there. That's a nice soft sound. Let's give it a little bit more of its volume back. Okay, so now I've got 3 different sounds. Alright, that's interesting enough for me. What I did there was I increased this to 6/16. That would be, divide by 2 would be 3/8. And brought our feedback way up so that we got a couple more hits out of that thing. And now let's bring our other delay units in. And our original signal. And all of that came from 2 notes. Here, let's hit them a little harder. Just see what happens. Okay, so basically that's my second method of going at it. The first method being this complete random, we're just going to tweak knobs until we're happy with it. And then secondly, I actually sit down and play with each individual delay and try to find something that makes sense with it. Now, okay, let's work through the pros and cons and try to wrap this thing up. It's been, holy crap, 25 minutes. This is a long video. My apologies. But you can tell there's a lot to appreciate here. What happens if we just start making... Okay, so yeah, enough of that. Let's stop the music. Pros and cons on this thing. First thing off, pro. It's a lot of fun. You can get carried away with it. You can lose 25 minutes at a time very easily tweaking knobs and just having a good old time. And that's what this hobby is about for most of us, is having a good time. So yay, big plus there. The usefulness of this, well, obviously you can take something extremely simple. Here are 4 notes over a 4-bar period, and it can make a very complex sound for you. Where'd it go? You heard it. You don't need to hear it again. The point's been made. You can turn it into a very evolving, neat sounding deal. So those are great things about this. The cons, and there are several that I have run into. The first I mentioned already. The filter frequency does not have a hertz associated with the tooltip. Seems like that was an oversight. Would be extremely helpful if they added that at some point. Secondly, there are times when I'm making music that I don't want a device like this. As I said, I've got 2 ways that I approach this thing. One, I'm going to tweak things until I get something, just kind of crazy, going blindly at it with a knife in the dark, and you're going to stab something that's probably going to hurt when you get to mix down. The other way about going about it is taking your time and tweaking each knob or each delay individually and really putting a lot of thought in it. And that's the con, is it requires more thought than I want to expend sometimes. I have a job where I have to think, and I sometimes like to retreat to music because, I can relax and play and not have to think quite as hard. Anyway, so, maybe that con doesn't work for you. Maybe I'm just being lazy. But that's the thing, is it takes a lot of effort on my part to make something that sounds good. Now, the other technical difference here is this would really kick butt, especially, and I guess really only in parallel or combo mode it matters. This thing needs separate audio outs for each delay. I would love to be able to take, let's just say, that particular sound and maybe run it through a reverb. But the way it's set up right now, I can't do that because I've got everything that's going just to these 2 audio outputs here. So I guess you could pan them hard left and hard right and then use it to send it to a different effects chain if you wanted to. But that seems kind of... they need to add a couple different outputs. That would be a feature that would make this thing much more delicious. Okay, so the only other con that I have is the price. I've become a little bit spoiled, I guess. Things like Ubik with the run cider and the tremolo unit or whatever at $19. those have very specific, well, Run Cider can do so many different things, but that's beside the point. The thing is, $19 for an effect unit works within my budget. $45 for an effect unit that may actually slow my production down. It's harder for me to buy it off, So basically, my end result on this thing, the thing that I would like to end with and remind myself come Christmas, is if this thing were, say, $30, and maybe if it had those extra outputs, then it's a purchase, no doubt in my mind. But without the extra outputs and at 45, I can't do it. It's not for me. Anyway, I think we discussed everything that I set out to discuss. I'd like to hope so, because we're now 31 minutes into this video. God bless you if you're still with me. Anyway, God bless you even if you're not still with me. So, yeah, that's the end of this one. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll talk to you later.